In 1998, I hosted the Prime Minister of Turkey. His name was Ilmaz. We had wonderful relations with Turkey at the time. They've not withstood this test of time. But at the time, they were very good. And after a wonderful dinner, at the Prime Minister's residence, we had coffee in the living room. And I said, Prime Minister, I have a favor to ask you. And he said, yes, go ahead. And I said, there is a tablet, a stone tablet in Hebrew that was found in the tunnel that we have just, it's right here, that was dug 2,700 years ago by King Hezekiah. That's 300 years after King David. And it marks the place where two teams of diggers met, just as was described here, two teams of archaeological workers. They met when they dug this channel underneath Jerusalem to connect it to the water source and the pool of Siloam. It would be completely underground, safe from enemies. And when the two teams heard one another, they started digging towards each other, and at the place where they met and completed the tunnel, they put this tablet in Hebrew, the Bible speaking to us, because that channel, the digging of that channel is described in the Bible. And here we see that in biblical Hebrew, perhaps except the Dead Sea Scrolls, the most important archaeological discovery in Israel. And I said, look, I have a proposal for you. You know, we have thousands of Ottoman artifacts in our museums. Choose any one you want. You can get it. It's yours. And let's do an exchange. And he said, no, I'm sorry, I can't do that. And I said, well, take all the artifacts in our museums. And he said, no, I can't do that. And I said, well, name your price. And he said, Prime Minister Netanyahu, there is no price. And I said, why? He said, well, there is a growing Islamist constituency headed by the then mayor of Istanbul, you know his name. And there would be outrage from this section of the Turkish people that we would give Israel a tablet that would show that Jerusalem was a Jewish city 2,700 years ago. Well, it was a Jewish city 3,000 years ago. And we just passed over here the shaft in which David's general, Joab, climbed with some brave soldiers to conquer the city from within. David declared it its capital. Jerusalem, D.C., David's capital. And here, right next to these stones, and on these pavements, the prophets of Israel prophesied, the kings of Israel walked, the pilgrims came, and some of the most poetic psalms and prophecies and proverbs in the history of humanity were written, inspiring not only our people, but all of humanity. And this continued for 1,000 years into the time of Jesus, a Jewish rabbi from the Galilee who came here to Jerusalem, the Holy of Holies, and he came here to that pool in Siloam to be purified, where he also performed the miracle of helping the blind see. And then they would walk up the road to this place. That was all brought to an end by the great rebellion of the Jews against the Romans in 70 AD. And when we tread on these stones, you will find a hole there, some holes, because the Jews hid in the spaces below the stones. We found a Roman sword there. The Jews fought bravely but the Romans were absolutely merciless. And they killed hundreds of thousands of Jews, including those hiding below the Pilgrim's Road. Now, 2,000 years later, we recovered our city. We recovered our independence. We built our sovereign state anew. We built an army. And we built a country like no other. But this country is based on those 2,000 years of yearning. Next year in Jerusalem, next year in Jerusalem. It didn't matter if you were in the ghetto in Toledo or the ghetto in Warsaw. That's what Jews prayed for. Next year in Jerusalem. Well, we're here. This is our city, Mr. Erdogan. It's not your city. It's our city. It will always be our city. It will not be divided again. And that's why I so much appreciate the leadership of President Trump in this area as well. When he declared Jerusalem our capital, something that should have been acknowledged by every leader in the world, but he did it. And then moved the American embassy here. He did things that are so obvious, and yet defied all these governments, all these foreign chancelleries, all these experts who said, you cannot do that. He called me up before he did it. He asked, what do you think? I said, well, would there be riots? Would there be bloodshed? I said, I don't think so. But if there will be, it'll be primarily directed at us. And we are definitely ready. So he just did it. And I welcome today the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, who understands that this is the foundation of our common Judeo-Christian heritage. It is being challenged today. It's being challenged by a growing Islamist force. It's being challenged by the unity of the Islamists with the ultra-left. They both deny our patrimony. They both deny our heritage. And they are putting all the pressure on European leaders and others who, weak-kneed, are suggesting that we divide Jerusalem. They're suggesting that we plant a Palestinian state committed to our destruction right here. And we say any unilateral action can be met with unilateral action. This is our city. It is forever our city. It will never be divided again, and there will be no Palestinian state. And that, with that brief commercial, I want to thank the donors, the diggers, the people who committed so much of their lives to this incredible foundation of our civilization and of the Jewish people. You deserve, David, you deserve the eternal gratitude of Jews and Christians and free men and women alike. Thank you all. Thank you, and Am Yisrael Chai, and Jerusalem lives in our hearts. Thank you.